impetus behind moving towards a 2-year cycle is because of how trying it's gotten on our community. While I don't like it, I also want Shorewood voter turnout to continue, particularly for those other races that I've mentioned. So, I myself am not in favor of exploring this more, but of course, if folks wanted to, I'd be curious to learn what's going, I'm not gonna be, I won't obstruct it, but my own thought is we need to think about beyond Shorewood, and the impact that hosting elections every 2 years could potentially have on those off years.
Allison, did you have something, Allison?
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I can't see, so it's hard for me. I think the reason wasn't necessarily us. I mean, I stayed out of the elections for the last, my vote for election. I don't think that's the problem when I thought of this and, myself. It was more of the residents are very active in Sherwood, which is great, but it does take its toll on us having the ability to get our work done. And so, for that reason, I fully support exploring it. And I'm shocked that the state only allows it every year, and you have to check. Does any other municipality in Wisconsin, does every single municipality have election for local elected officials every year? And it just seems up.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess, I'm not in favor of the mix of changing the election cycle for a variety of reasons, and also for the next, I think it is 9 years, it would really mess up. We would have an election every year, or, some people would have 1-year terms, it's very disruptive. And although I wish that, the Shorewood elections, I will say this, I will wish that people behaved a lot better during Shorewood elections, and there were a lot fewer dirty tricks. This last time was really trying. I'm really shocked. I had so many people say, why are you doing this? Why would you put yourself through this again? And,
You mean like letters sent in the mail
Um,
to everyone in town?
Exactly.
you do that?
Anonymous letters?
yeah, that's awful.
That's
That's pretty
exactly what
awful.
Yeah, well, it was pretty awful. But I'm just checking which dirty tricks you're talking about.
Oh, I'm not gonna go into, I'm not gonna go into that right now, but I think you can figure it out, trustee Amenta.
I think everybody can.
I-
'Cause
Okay,
we all have the letter.
and, excuse me, I still have the floor. So I am not in favor of switching it for a variety of reasons, many of which, school board member just enumerated here. As far as the electorate, yes, it's incumbent upon us to act better, okay? And if people in the community, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, but taking away people's democratic, ability for elections and to be able to change who their representatives are, I don't think that's on us to do. And I'm not done. So I guess, I would love to have like a informal straw poll here to see who wants to consider moving this forward, so maybe we can save all of us time, so I don't know if there's a way, if anyone wants to move a show of hands. Sure.
Let's, yeah, President Rosick, and then Rebecca, and then Mike.
Oh, thank you. I just want to follow up. First, when you make statements like that, it's very difficult to have a working relationship. Number one, no one's proposing that we take away the democratic process for our
This
citizens.
isn't a debate
We're
with her.
proposing to be our election cycle rather than a one. So that's really hard for me to swallow, because I'm one of the people that supports this. Secondly, if people are going to make and continue to make, either whether it's my board members or our intergovernmental partners, statements that there is some nasty things going on, and saying that, then I want you to say what they are. These are unfair statements and on edge. So if something that you thought was unfair and you wanted it to see change, it's really incumbent upon ourselves to discuss this with each other. And so it's not helpful, in my opinion, to make statements like that and say, I don't want to discuss it further. So either make the statement and say what you mean, or don't make that statement. It's not helping in intergovernmental relations.
Rebecca?
Thank you. So there's someone posed a question and I forget where it came from, but are there any other municipalities who do it every other year? I have asked the clerk to reach out on that, but we don't know of any at this time. I'm not privy to any. Many do follow state statute, which calls for the annual, which is one of the reasons why our village attorney has just advised that it would be in our best interest to informally or formally ask the Attorney General if he'd provide the opinion. Our village attorney believes, under the way that the law is written, that it's within our purview in order to make that decision, but just to ensure that we're on solid ground, because it's not done anywhere else we're aware of at this time, it'd be best to seek that opinion. And likewise, we ask of the school board that they also consult with their legal counsel just to see how your process would work, should you decide to further investigate.
Mike, you.
Yeah, on this, one of my concerns is, I'm on my 5th term, is this approach would have half the non-presidential members of the board switching. So instead of more gradual transitions, you'd have abrupt half the 3 of the 7 board members would leave. You could have 4 when the president, which is a major change. The way it is, it provides a transition, a more smoother. It also provides the public an opportunity to change direction. If they don't like the way the village is going, you don't have to wait 2 years. You're gonna have people next year. And I know I'm committed to, not being negative, but people have free speech rights. They have a right to speak up. If they don't like something that's going on in their village, they can speak up. So, I mean, it provides them an opportunity every year to speak up and vote what direction they want their village or schools to be going.
Emily?
I think I would feel more strongly about pursuing this if there were some kind of grassroots movement. And not that we can't bring good ideas as, elected officials, but I feel like because there's the cost of the vote basically being promoting change, as Mike just pointed out, taking away that power every year to have a voice in your local government might be worth it to many people who say, okay, like I'm willing to sacrifice that to have a little longer period of peace and work on these boards between elections. Maybe that's worth it for people, but I would need to feel like there was really a groundswell of public support to be want to pursue that.
Thanks. So this is Paru, sorry. I think, so originally, one of the things that I had thought of was that I do think that maybe we would have greater voter turnout if we had fewer elections, but I wanted to say thank you to Pablo, because I hadn't actually thought about all the other off-cycle elections that happen in our state, which would then obviously be affected by that lower voter turnout here in Shorewood. So I just want to say thank you, because I hadn't thought of that.
And I have Tammy next, then Allison.
Thank you.
So yeah, and another reason that I agree completely with Ms. Berry's assessment here, that if this were a grassroots movement or if there were some impetus, I like that we're discussing this right now, because this also will give, provide for future boards with a little bit of history on the fact that this has already been discussed and some of the concerns and some of the reasons for and against. But the cost factor is also a great one, because, and I'm not just talking about the amount of, I'll put it in perspective in the near future as far as cost. So if we were to go forward with this tonight and say, okay, yeah, let's continue to explore this, let's spend more money on the attorneys to have them investigate, school district's attorney as well as our attorney. If there were not, and I'm not saying this is the case, maybe there is a groundswell in here of people who really wanna pursue this. I personally don't think it's in our best interest at this time. I don't think it's in our staff interest. I know at the village, we have a lot of unfinished business to do. We're nearing budget cycle here soon. And so to put this as a priority in the near future, as far as something that we want to explore, is gonna, again, push back some of the things that we have already pushed back as a board. And so I would appeal to, if the school board, if this is something that you really feel that you wanna do, and we didn't, then, of course, by all means, but we have a lot of unfinished business to do. And I haven't seen this as a priority in the past, but again, I appreciate the conversation. So I would love to see if people are willing to do a straw poll to see if this is something we wanna continue, because I know we do have more, stuff on the agenda.
Let's do Allison and then Jessica and then do a straw poll.
Okay, I only have a question. I don't have the memo in front of me, and it wasn't ready prior to the meeting, right, Rebecca? So, if you do an election every 2 years, and maybe I'm just grasping this wrong, but isn't there an election every year?
Yeah.
Even though maybe not. Okay.
Yes,
We-
there is.
we
There's
would-
presidential
There's
elections,
other
there's all
elections.
kinds of other
Other
elections, so
We
there
would-
would still be elections
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
year.
we don't
Yep.
say that.
But there wouldn't be.
We would continue to have April, August, and November elections. because there are other offices that would require it.
Yeah.
The one in question that potentially may be, canceled would be February because of the primary component of it. But that would still be there.
Over to Jessica.
And
Right.
Trustee Rockworth, just to give you a little bit of background, Peru and I actually, President John and I, at one point had this conversation to sort of even bring this up, was kind of what everybody had talked about. And for me, I think even just laying this out the way that it is and understanding, just some of the different nuances about it, I was originally thinking this would be something that would be really good for our community. And I there are, some other nuances that does sort of leave some gaps in my thought about it, and I do have some concerns about turnout, and I do have some concerns about, people's voices not being able to be heard for 2 years, and, a lot can change in, in just one presidential election, on a national level, but, so I think that's where the sort of sentiment began and the question began, and, I think for me at this point, I feel like I have enough information to feel, to somewhat be swayed that, maybe this is not the right time for us to do this, and, maybe this is the information that I needed, after our conversations, and to hear what, other people on both boards felt, and what other people in the community felt, knowing that we were discussing this. So that I just wanted to kind of appreciate that.
Let's at this point let's take a straw poll and just kind of see how everyone in the room feels. And do you want to start?
So what's the question?
Yeah,
Just how do we feel on pursuing this further?
just doing more research.
Pursuing more research on changing the election cycle. So why don't we start with Lance and we'll wrap all the way around to Allison. Does that sound good?
Sure. I would say no.
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 For the reasons Jessica just mentioned, I'd go no too.
I don't have an opinion one way or the other.
No.
Allison?
I'm gonna say no, I just wanna make sure that if it's ever brought up again, like 2-3 years from now, that we're not killing it forever, that it's potentially, I agree with Jessica on the timing and the effort, and I appreciate the information that was given today. I just wanna make sure we're not saying, don't ever bring this up again.
Well, future boards can determine what they're doing.
Sure.
I think we're all in
Yeah.
agreement that we're not killing it forever, just for the time, for the purposes of this conversation and kind of this cycle we are.
And
Okay, then I'm gonna,
thank you to Rebecca for researching it, because that's the information we needed to make that decision, so.
Have more information.
So,
It's good to know.
anything else on agenda item number 6? If not, we can move forward to agenda item number 7, which is discuss a $15 living wage. Rebecca, are you, this wasn't in the packet, so I don't know who's presenting on this. Oh.
Yeah, that was kind of my suggestion, which originally we discussed it in talking about the crossing guards and when they were becoming village employees, that, we felt that a $15 an hour wage was more appropriate wage to pay. And I think that, I did a little bit of looking at some numbers, and most 2-bedroom apartments in Shorewood are about $1,500. The HUD and other housing agencies suggest your housing cost should not be more than 30% of your total expenses, gross salary, so that a $1,500 rent works out to about $54,000 a year salary at 30%. And $15 an hour is much less than that, it's only $30,600. So I just think this is something that a lot of progressives on the national level right now in the campaign are talking about, something in terms of the income inequality in our country and in our village is a significant issue that we need to be considering. This is something we can do something about. This is not something that, is making a statement about something. These are people that we employ. Now, I'm not suggesting like our seasonal workers, for example, should necessarily be paid, but I think someone who's full-time, working 40 hours a week, deserves to make a minimum of $15 an hour, no matter, you know, I mean, their labor, the labor of someone who's working in the kitchen or a parking checker, whatever, should be valued, you know, I mean, it has a different value than, you know, Rebecca, for example, the police chief, but it still should have some minimum value. So that's my feeling. I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's something that we can do more than make a statement. We can actually affect people's lives in a positive way. And so that's why I brought it up.
Can I ask on the $15?
I have the floor.
Allison, I'm gonna go to Tammy and then you're next.
Thank you.
So I appreciate this conversation as well. This is something that the Fight for 15 has been an ongoing movement nationally, as Trustee Amenta mentioned, and there are many organizations, and probably you can attest to this, many organizations, even locally, that are working on this. And forgive me for my ignorance in this arena. I can't remember. I think Milwaukee did this, or are we allowed to supersede state law? Has state law put a cap on? I mean, I know we're not allowed to supersede state law, but I can't remember if state law has cut this or not.
Set a maximum minimum wage? Is that
Or
what
it's
you're
just
saying?
said that municipalities don't have the right to set a minimum.
Well, we have
Or
a right to set
non-
our pay scales.
Our pay
Oh,
scale,
yeah,
or our
gotcha,
vendors.
okay.
We could vendors,
Right, so
but you
this
can't,
would-
I think, dictate what
Right.
other
What,
employers.
it's not other employers,
Right.
we're just talking about government jobs at this
Right.
point, not like the retail community or the bar or the entertainment district.
I see.
I see,
So you're talking
okay.
about the people that the village employs or
Well,
contracts.
there's
Yeah.
two, well, there's your own employees, or
Right.
like Milwaukee County has $12 and whatever.
Right, so,
They're
and
gonna
go-
and although I,
We wanna get up to
15
by
over a
2021
couple
or
of years.